Hi there. For today's show, I asked people on the internet for some ideas about dangerous things that they were not least expecting. And people gave a lot of suggestion which tell me that there are lots of innocent looking things out there that we could maybe be careful of. Anyway, the one what I've picked to choose are from somebody whose name are Liam Bruce Wantenaar, and he have suggested that I look at why punctuation are a dangerous thing you can least expect. Further down, somebody called Zippy Ben. Now, I'm not sure Zippy are a real name, but anyway, I do know that a zip can be a dangerous thing you can least expect, especially if you are in a hurry. But I think that are another show. Anyway, so Zippy Ben, he write, I second punctuation. And I think to myself, what do that mean? But then I think in a race, if you are seconding someone, it means you are giving them some drink of water. And so Zippy are suggesting that you can give water to punctuation, but punctuation appears on paper and you should really not mix paper and water, Zippy. So I don't really know what you are speaking of, but I think that are dangerous. So if we look at punctuation, it are a long word. So once again, I think it is good if we break it up into its different syllabuses. And so the first part of the word are punctuation. So a punk are a word what I've heard a lot of times and I kind of have an idea, but I thought to get specific, let me ask Goggle what it say a punk are. And so this are what Goggle say, and I'll read it for you. It say a punk are a young person. So I'm sorry, old people, if you thought you were a punk, I'm sorry. A young person, especially a member of a rebellious counterculture group. Now, that seem like a lot of big words, but it make a lot of sense. It are a rebellious person from a counterculture group. So what it say to me are that you can ever only have one punk. Because the first punk what you got are being rebellious and he are being counterculture. But the moment you get somebody second who are trying to be a punk, he are copying the first guy, so he are no longer rebellious and he fit into the group, so he are no longer counterculture. And so that are why you can never have more than one punk. There are no such thing as punks. When you get that, it just become a lot of people standing together with really bad hair. And then the second part of the word are tuition. Now, I once had a rotten viler what the tuition, but not just any shin. He did try to chew my shin, and that were very dangerous indeed. So I think you can already see how this punctuation thing can be something that we must be very wary of. Now, punctuation, it means like dots and commas and semi-commas and so on. And so I would say it are like the Morse code of writing. And maybe another thing you can have is what we call brackets in South Africa. But some other people call it parents' thesis. But when I hear that, a thesis to me sound like something that are very wrong or very long, sorry. But if it are a parent's thesis, if your parents are writing that thesis, well, then I think it will be very boring and very long. So you must just avoid it altogether. So I think maybe with that one we'll stick towards just saying brackets. Now you're probably thinking, how can this be dangerous? It are just a bunch of small things, dots and commas and things like that. But let me say that it helps if you put it in a sentence. So let's look at this sentence. I like to eat, comma, grandma. I like to eat, grandma. Now if you take the comma out of that sentence, then it becomes I like to eat grandma. And then that are totally different thing altogether. Because then it means you have become a cannonball. And we all know how dangerous cannonballs are, especially if you have seen the movie The Pirates of the Caribbean. Because in that movie we saw how Jack Sparrow, his whole ship were destroyed by cannonballs, and so you have to avoid them. Now, two other things that I can think of. One is what we in South Africa, we call the full stop. It's like the little dot what appear at the end of a sentence. So when your sentence are full, you must stop. But then in other countries, like in America land, they call it the period. And that can be a bit confusing because, like, when I think of period, it could be a historical period, or it could be like a maths period or a history period. So it just lots. So I prefer we keep it a full stop. And then the last one that I think of is the exclamation mark. Now, a mark already, it sounds like something that have made a mark on you. It have made itself imprinted on you. But in other countries, it can be known as the exclamation point. And so people think, what does that mean? So firstly, you make an exclamation and they think, what are you exclamating about? And then you point. And so they look to see what you're exclamating about. But sometimes by that time, it are too late already because you've been eaten by a lion or you've been ridden over by a snowplow or whatever it is. So again, I think we'll stick with the exclamation mark. And so that are why punctuation are a dangerous thing you can least expect. Full stop.